Welcome, everyone, to episode 363 of Just Joshing. I am your host, Joshua Pintellarusco. I write stuff in Podcast 2. Today, part 1 of my 2-part conversation with Jenn Taylor is live. I love Jenn. I actually do, because she's so chill. One of the most relaxed, easygoing people I've ever dealt with, ever. Just in a really quick conversation, I just really got that sense of, she's so just cool with everything, and especially in these times, it is so refreshing. And we talk a lot about this time because we both, I think, have the same kind of Zen mentality. I've kept my politics out of COVID because honestly, I look at everything and I kind of see some things one way and I see some things the other way because again, I'm just cynical enough not to trust what's presented for me. But I'm not so far gone to believe everything else presented to me either. It's kind of like, well, what is this likely to be? And, that's kind of where I'm at with this. It's not, but for all that, I've been calm, I've been cool, I've been supportive, I've been positive, and it was so nice to be around someone that felt the same way. And Jenn is amazing, awesome writer, awesome podcaster, and I can't really say enough of good things about her. When we get to this conversation, she's had a pretty freaking cool life. And Jenn, I haven't forgotten. The moment this episode's recorded, I'm actually putting my name into your podcast because I need to return the favor. But before we get there, I'm kind of giddy. I'm like in a really, really, really weird kind of giddy. 2 days ago, I put my book up for order and for people to order. So Cloud Diver is officially going to come out May 16th. I got another big event I got to announce too. That comes out May 17th. I am just in like this weird Zen mode of holy shit, it's here, it's now, what's going to happen next, I'm excited, blah 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 blah. That's where I'm at. I'm kind of in that thing. I've written blogs about unicorns, zombies, future history. I got a pitch to do an editor at another sci-fi website. Yeah, I'm kind of in this wild zone right now, and I'm loving every second of it. This is what I'm supposed to do, and that's how I kind of feel it. So anyway, we'll talk more later. Let's get to that conversation with Jenn, shall we?
This episode of Just Joshing is sponsored by Indie Imprint. Indie Imprint supports creators by creators. Whether you are writing a book or creating a video game, Indie Imprint works with its clients to produce, edit, and present their projects to the world. For more information, check out their website at www.indieimprint.com.
So I generally start these interviews with a question like this. If you've done something incriminating, make it good and tell all to the audience. Her eyes, ladies and gentlemen, just kind of bulged a little bit at that. So there's definitely some nefariousness there, I can tell.
I think that's a great way to either do something worth writing about, or there's a saying that's almost exactly the same as that. If you're going to do something incriminating, basically do something good enough worth writing about. So I'll let you know.
So you're pleading the fifth?
I might be. I have 18 kids. What do you want to know?
Well, no, it's okay. So like I said, it's one of those situations where again, the look in your eyes told me, oh, I've done some shit. And that's okay. That's okay. That is your situation. I certainly do not judge. Lord knows I'm guilty as hell myself, but that's all right. But the thing is, it's always a good icebreaker, I find. So, yeah, I try to go for I don't come at things. I've learned that coming at things the way everybody expects you to come at them is a real way to get nothing accomplished. It's better to actually come at people in unexpected ways and kind of see how they'll react. It tells me a lot more about who they are than if I went, how are you?
Exactly. Well, I haven't done anything real incriminating lately.
Okay.
But I'm never going to stop trying to get my husband in the backseat of the car on date night. So, yeah.
How old is he?
There's that.
How old is he? Your husband?
I turned 50 this year, and he's 45.
You got in 15 years, he won't give a shit. In about 15 years, he'll just be like, all right, fine, I'll do it. Let's play. All right.
I he said no, but
yeah. Wait till he gets older. My dad. I'm in my dad's shop right now, and he's watching him age is interesting. He's about 65. and I'm approaching 40, or I'm approaching 40, he's approaching 65. He gives no fucks. My secret fear is I'm getting there faster than he did, right? Because I give even less fucks than he does, right? And that's in some ways, because going on right now, like, I faced my own personal apocalypse about 12 years ago. And while, again, and like from an ego standpoint, this is a much bigger scenario, a lot of the mentality is still the same, right? And I find that, for me, I'm just chill about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm chill about most things, so, yeah. I don't give many fucks either.
Yeah. So, she's like, I'm good. I don't know where this is going, but I'm good. Right?
I'm good.
Yeah. So
basically, bring it on.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So you write and you podcast, and the thing that got me about you when you were doing the show, Spilling Ink. This is how I met her, ladies and gentlemen, through Spilling Ink.
Yes, I did Spilling Ink.
Yes,
yep.
Right. So you did Spilling Ink. You were far and away probably the most positive person on there. Right?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, far and away the most positive person. And I dig that, because I think right now more than anything else, we do actually need positivity, because this will pass at some point, and there's no point in screaming and howling your way through the whole ordeal.
Well, I mean, I think I feel that way just generally. Like, I did say I'm pretty laid back, and I am. My brother-in-law once asked me at a family reunion, are you as laid back as you come across? And I was like, I'm not the person to ask, because I can lie about myself. Yep, I'm everything perfect you think about me. And so he asked my husband, he's like, is she really this laid back? And he's like, dude, she's the most laid back person I've ever met. And I was like, okay. So I actually think just by default, I'm a pretty laid back personality. So when things happen, like COVID-19 right now, and there's a lot of chaos, my reaction is not to be chaotic at all. My reaction is, where can we find the silver lining despite the fact that this is a situation that's going on? I also learned a really long time ago, you can't control a whole lot of shit. And the shit you can't control, you need to let go of. Because, I could get cut off on the highway right now driving, and I can be pissed off at the dude, and it can ruin my whole damn day. Something I have no control of, I don't know the person, or I can be like, I'm so sorry that you're in a hurry and needed to get somewhere and needed to cut me off. It just, not care, not give two shits about the fact that I can't control that. So I think I learned really early on that those things that we don't have control of, I'm giving control to that driver. My whole day. I'm giving him my whole day. I just gave it to him. It was a gift. He doesn't know me. He doesn't know that. He has no clue that I'm pissed. He might not even know that he cut me off.
Or care.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or care for that matter. Even if he did know.
Or care.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And so I just relinquished control of my attitude and how good my day is going to be to this person who doesn't know and doesn't care, most likely. And that's what I did have control over. I had control over how I reacted and if I let it ruin my day. So I just decided a very long time ago.
One second, I'll be right back.
You got it.
There we go. We are back in business here. So, ladies and gentlemen, we were interrupted by arrival of dinner from my dad. So, no, it just... I learned this. I learned this too. Like, you can't get mad at the rain. It's crazy to get mad at the rain, right? And I have 8 rules to success, and it's rule 4. The rest is rain. You can only do the best you can in any situation provided, and if it works out perfectly, great. But you know what? Sometimes it doesn't work out. Heck, I nearly killed my dad once with chocolate chip cookies. I screwed up. I made a mistake in the recipe, and I watched him literally fold like an accordion, right? And it was like, oh crap. Oops, this is how the dough rose, right? And yes, ladies and gentlemen, you shouldn't try to kill your parents in a baking project in science class way back in grade 9. You shouldn't do that. I'm not condoning it, but I learned, again, learning valuable lessons. And then I've done like really good stuff when I've baked, which is making banana bread and other things as well. And I just came to the conclusion that, sometimes these things aren't going to work out the way you set out to do them. And you can get mad about that, but really, that's actually one of the fun little joys of life. You learn from actually your failures, and you learn from your screw ups, and you can take the opportunity to be mad that something outside of your control happened, or you can even learn from it. You can learn from the asshole that cut you off, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Right. right? Although in his case, it's probably just don't do that, right?
Well, you know, his wife could be in labor. I'm always like, I hope your wife has the baby and everything's okay, you know. But I really feel like the great majority of how things go in our lives is our attitude about them and towards them and in them. And that doesn't mean that I don't have moments where I cry or I get a little overwhelmed or I'm pissed or whatever. But I know that I own that and I can decide to live there or not. And so, yeah, it was interesting on the Spilling Ink show, and I don't know that anybody was being negative, but I just don't come from a place of negativity.
It's you faced some adversity, haven't you?
Yes. Yeah.
I think so. This is the thing I noticed. Like when I faced my own personal adversities, like I said years ago. And I find that this is almost like the whole world is getting a dose of it in a really, really big way, right? And what's happened is not all of us have ever been in situations where things have been adverse. Some of us have, some of us haven't, sometimes to various degrees of extremes. But I find that people that have seen adversity before, they're the ones like, okay, this is it, this is going on right now, what can I do, right? Me, I'm trying to make money in this situation. That's how I'm looking at it, right? It's like, okay, how can I turn this into an opportunity? And that's been my whole attitude since it happened, right? And that's mine. Like, it's not necessarily the correct way of looking at it, but it is a way to look at it. And I find other people have done other things as well. So,
yeah, I agree. I mean, so we're talking about COVID-19, and yeah, I've been through trauma. I mean, I wrote a book about my childhood growing up in dysfunction, which is a huge catalyst. That story is a huge catalyst why I did foster care and I have 18 kids. So clearly I'm wanting to make a difference that's positive, and I feel like everything is about the story, and I love the story. The story is so fascinating, and that's why I launched the podcast. I wanted to hear everyone else's story. My book was just part of mine. So I think it's really about the story we tell ourselves in these situations, and also the story that we're listening to. And I tell my husband, like, I'm not as inundated into the news and the stats as you are, because it's not what I want to bring in. If you want to bring that in, that's fine, but we can't change the situation that we're presented with. So despite that situation, what are the great things? The great things are, like you said, opportunity is a really great thing. I've had an online business for 4 years. Everybody's moving they're forced to move all of these businesses, everything that they can online. I'm like, welcome to the fucking party. You know, like, I've been here waiting for you guys to show up because this is where I've lived. So, like,
yeah,
welcome. You know what I mean? So, I mean, in my mind, that's a great opportunity for businesses who haven't spent a lot of time in the online space to spend some time there. It's a really great community. There's a lot to offer. Yes, you're going to be doing things differently. How can I help you to that transition for you? In what way can we connect and collaborate? And sometimes that means I make money off it, and sometimes that means we're just connecting and collaborating. But I really feel like everybody came over to my house. You know, everyone's online. I'm like, great, they've arrived finally. So that part of it wasn't a negative to me, because there's so many positives within that, and that's why I have my own business and I work from home online. Yeah. So I really think it's the space that you look at it. Okay, you've never used Zoom, or you've never used Skype, or you don't know how to. I'm actually doing a video right now. I'm editing it right now on what to do and what not to do on meetings, on videos. And you know, if you're showing up on an online virtual meeting, treat it like the business. This week there have been 2 videos that have come out that just make me like pee my pants laugh. And one is a woman brought her phone into the bathroom, set it down. Have you seen this?
No.
She sat down and went to the bathroom while she's with like a group of 8 people. Another woman was dressed perfectly. She's very professional. She's having a meeting. I don't know if it was her dad or her boyfriend or some guy. Jumps out from behind her in his underwear, and when he realizes she's on a meeting, he turns and he tries to run out of the room and runs right into a wall. I think it's so amusing. I can see you and I can hear you, right? Like
that one's more forgivable. The second one is actually a little bit more forgivable.
Because it is.
Yeah.
Because the person didn't realize, but you need we are working in an online world. It is virtual. When you're on camera, I don't want to see up your nose. I don't want to look at your ceiling. You shouldn't be, wandering your house while we're having a meeting. You're being disrespectful. You'd never do that in a work environment. So respect the time. So there's all these things, all these new rules that people are learning that are just fucking hilarious in the process. But that's the world that I live in, and we can have fun with that and learn from it, and it can be funny.
Do you know it would be great if you did it in like a form of a skit? Like you actually, since you write books and stuff like that, like this is an opportunity. Like you have kids, right? I'm sure they'd have no problem like doing the most obnoxious stuff on camera possible, and you can actually.
We videotaped some of that today.
Yeah,
I asked my 10-year-old. I'm like, just walk up. I'm going to be videotaping. I want you to walk up to me and say, Mom, I know you told me not to interrupt, but I'm just wondering how much longer your meeting's going to last. And so she did. She walked around. And I'm like, then walk behind me and turn on the blender. Like, maybe I shouldn't be having a meeting in the damn kitchen, Like, maybe I should have thought that one out. So, yes, I've already started the skit stuff.
Yeah, because that can be...
really fun.
Yeah, I can't wait. You should send me the link to that shit. Then send me the link to that at the end of this, because that's going to be hilarious for me to watch.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Crazy. So we're changing in the time. So you need to change with them, and that's the funny stuff and the difficult stuff. And I get that there's a learning curve for people, and I get the stress. I understand the loss of income. I understand all of those things. The difference this time in this situation, like you talked about your struggles a minute ago, and I grew up in dysfunction. I've had struggles, right? But this one we're all like worldwide. Yeah. Worldwide, we're going through it together.
Yeah. Which I think is going to be great for everybody. I think in one real sense, because anyone that's never gone through an adverse period in their life, this is it for them, and they're going to learn an awful lot about who they are as people. Because it's always adversity that teaches you who you are, and at some point or another, you come face to face, and there are things you like about yourself, there are things you don't like about yourself, right? And it all kind of comes to a head, right? Are you curious what that sound is?
Yes. What is that sound?
That is one of my dad's many interesting little inventions. It's a magnetic field. He's in a vitamin shop and he's playing with magnets in the background. It's kind of it's an interesting combination. He's been using different things synthetically and also organically to heal different infections and diseases today. Very unorthodox. But that's it's really cool. A lot of people would look at him like he's crazy, but the truth of the matter is he's actually kind of a genius. Like he really is. He sees things in a very different way, and he's done more good with it than a lot of people would give him credit for. He's come up with his own ideas how to actually fight COVID. The problem is, right, because he's so unorthodox, because it's so outside the box, a lot of people would think it was crazy, right, and said it right, and I've been dealing with this my whole life. It used to really bother me when I was younger, right? Now that I'm older, I'm like, okay, you know what, you do it your way, I'll do it mine, and we'll see who's doing better when it's over. And not like in like an asshole way, but more like, you know what? If this works for you, good for you. If this works for me, I'm going to do this. And I've been very fortunate because, like I said, I can see this in a completely different light as a result of it. It's not scary in even the most remote ways to me. Not underestimating the virus, but even if I did get it, I'm actually relatively confident I'd be over it very quickly. So, and that's, maybe I'm crazy, but that is what I feel. So
I think that with most things, I mean, I know my family members, except for my grandmother, were all in the lowest statistic groups of people that are contracting it and really struggling with it. Certainly not in the group of people that have passed away from this. And I'm not minimizing it. The first person here in Reno that recently, like a day ago, yesterday, the first person that I know who was in his 40s died of COVID, and I feel horrible about it. And his wife, I know his wife really well, and there's nothing not traumatic when that happens.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of traumatic things that occur on an everyday basis, and this is one of those. We're just very hyper-focused on it. I still think, though, if we look at this as an opportunity to connect, and I'll give you an example. It seems like we're in line at the bank or the store, and everybody's got a hand in their phone, and they're looking down at their hand in their phone, right?
Yep.
Like, I see that as a desperate attempt to connect with people. But if you just looked up, you'd realize that there are people to connect with right in front of you, and you're just not taking the time. And I think that type of connecting, it's kind of become almost a lost art. Now we're in this situation where we're not even able to connect in that line at the grocery store in the same way. And so we have to do it through social media. And this whole new type of connecting is happening, but people are, where before it was like this attempt to connect that wasn't really genuine and really fake, and I'm going to show you my highlight reel, and now people are actually really genuinely connecting. I've been on more video meetings in the last 2 weeks and I'm on them a lot anyway, but I've been on them more in the last 2 weeks than I can ever remember being on video conferences. And people, I think, are really, really genuinely, they need to connect with people now. There aren't people in the line at the store. And so that's a really humongously positive thing that's come out of this situation, is that we've created this ability to take talking to the person standing in the line and the social media aspect of connecting and marrying them together to have this hybrid. I had wine, one of my friends did a Friday night wine, and everybody brought alcohol. We got on for an hour and we just all talked, and there were a lot of us that didn't know each other, and it was a blast.
Yeah, absolutely.
It did not replace going to our house and hanging out, but it was a really inventive way to take this situation and create a positive. And like you said, money making. You can make money in a bull market or a bear market. War is a terrible tragedy that makes a lot of money on either side. So my only point to that is, regardless of the situation, there is a possibility for opportunity, and that's another silver lining.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
So, yeah.
There's new ways to invent things. Like, I'm looking at my skill set. Like, we are similar, I think, in a lot of ways, because I've been doing podcasts for a very, very long time, and I've interviewed like a pretty giant list of who's in the industry, but always for me, it's their stories that interest me. What inspires you to go out there and achieve the things you're going to achieve, right? And I'm like, well, what can I do going forward in the next level to do it? And I've been starting little bits and things. Like I started doing an audiobook. This is like the skill I'm teaching myself now. This is going to be one of those things I cringe at in 6 months, but it's almost like I'm teaching myself voice acting. I'm teaching myself how to completely build an audio file from the ground up. I have some training with it, obviously, with a podcast, but an interview is a very different animal than building something from scratch, because in an interview, I might cut things you asked me to cut, right? But especially with the nature of my show, I like the little bits of chaos that are in the show. So why I could make it very polished, but why would I do that? I would rather have these little nuances and consistency. So my editing when I do an interview is minimal. When I'm doing an audiobook right? When I'm doing an audiobook, right? That's a lot different. I'm doing multiple takes. I'm building my own recording. I'm trying to make sure that the speed and cadence sounds right. I'm trying to make sure that works. Sound effects. How can I make sound effects to get in there without actually interfering, maybe adding to it? I'm trying to do a minimalistic approach here because, again, I'm starting out, but it's going to teach me a lot about storytelling from the very beginning. And then as I grow it and evolve it going forward, right, when this is over, I could probably do audiobooks for different authors or for other things too, because it's a skill I will have acquired in this time. I'm also teaching myself how to draw because I like to do comic books, even though the industry as we know it is pretty much on hold, on pause, and I don't know if it's ever going to come back the way it did. People are still going to put words and pictures together in some form or fashion, and when that does happen, well, that's another skill I have. I can tell now stories, not just audioly, I can do it visually as well, right? Yeah.
Well, one thing that we can't, the one thing that's I think the most precious commodity that we can never get more of, that we can never get back, is time. And one thing this situation has created is a lot of time. Now, if you have kids and you're online or homeschooling them now, clearly my time's broken up a little differently now than it was a couple weeks ago. Having said that, you're still giving this gift of being at home. And that can be stressful and create anxiety, but what do you want to do with it? What do you want to do at this time? Okay, you're learning how to the audiobook. I am looking at every course that I've wanted to take in the past.
Yeah.
So if there are courses like Udemy has them, if there are certain coaches or companies that you follow, now is the time to get on and look, because the amount that they're charging for things right now is ridiculous. It's so low. Classes have been cut. Let's see. I have over $1,500 in classes that I have either done or in the process of doing that I paid $35 for.
Yes.
I'm keeping a running list of everything I've signed up for, what the original price was, and what I actually paid for it. And I've literally paid $37 for over $1,500 worth of courses. These can be webinars, these can be continuing ed, it could be learning, it could be I'm adding to my coaching certifications, like stuff that my time hasn't changed, because as a matter of fact I've lost some because I work online, I work from home, and now I'm homeschooling 2 of the kids, and I was only homeschooling 1 of them prior to this. So I have less time than I did before. Most people have created more time. And I'm huge into scheduling and prioritizing and keeping accountability. But basically, if you can't go to work right now and you set a schedule to homeschool your kids, what are you doing with your time? If you've wanted to write a book, write the fucking book.
Yeah.
Write the book. And I'm not talking about spending a ton of money, because I don't have all this excess working capital. I don't make so much on my online. I make enough on my online business that I'm happy with it. But I don't have all this working capital to take $1,500 in courses. I would not have been able to do it because of this crisis. I have carved out my time differently, and I have given myself accountability and permission to take some classes that I've wanted to, and I've carved out the time, and I spent $37 instead of $1,500.
Yep.
So if there's anything that people want to do that they've been interested in doing, I work for a publishing company. That's a lot of the VA work that I do, is helping people get their books published. We have a free course right now that's running that's so much freaking fun. And we made it fun because people are at home and they're stressed out, and it doesn't need to be overwhelming. So how can we take the exact same thing that we always do for people who are really regimented and structured and make it a little bit easier for them, make it a little bit more fun? We're not capitalizing on that. Everybody's doing that right now.
Well, yeah.
People are so what do you want to do? And now you have the time. Do it.
And for however long this lasts. I have my own theories of how long it's going to go. I mean, we all have we all have our bets, but I figure my bet is June. Based on my research on my own research on the virus. So here's the good news, right? It's more infectious than people realize. That's actually good news, because that means it's far less likely to be lethal to the majority of the population because of how quickly it's spreading. We're going to probably get and also if it is related to SARS died in May when it came out because the weather was warm and it couldn't deal with it, right? So if this is a SARS related thing, chances are by the time we get to May, it's going to calm down. That's the good news. The bad news, right? The bad news is, in the meantime, all right, people are going to go through. They're going to go through their struggles. Going to go through whatever they're going to go through, and that's just the way it is. But I think that this is my thinking. It could go much longer. They're talking doom and gloom, but again, I'm just looking at based on. There's 2 timelines: 12 months or 4 months. That's really the ones that look the most realistic to me. I think after 4 months, the bad news is I think there is this intimacy and contact, and I think people are going to start sneaking out after about we get to May, because this is what I think is going to happen. This is my own little science fiction apocalypse. People need contact. People need hugs. People need handshakes. People need high fives. People need that connection. That's what we're built for. Virtual can do some things, but the reality of the situation is virtual can't do everything. And this isn't the Black Plague. This isn't even the Spanish flu of 1918 in terms of.
That's a great example.
Right. This isn't. It's not that it's not dangerous, right?
Right. I totally agree.
But it's not on that level. So people are eventually going to say to themselves, especially if they have nothing really to lose, fuck it, right? We're gonna go out, right? So well, probably something will happen is like bars. Okay, bars are closed, right? So what they'll do is they'll keep them officially closed. Unofficially, however, you can get in through the back door. Why not? Right? You come in at it might be a really late night, like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. But it's much like it's the idea of in prison, solitary confinement. They are solitarily confined 23 hours a day. On at least 1 hour a day, they are allowed to go out and do things. The reason why is because even though they are solitary confined, it is more damaging to the individual to keep them completely locked up and isolated in the same place for 24 hours in a day. We can isolate, I think, realistically, for asking someone to do something for 2 months is possible. But once we break that barrier, and because this virus is not to that level of devastation as some of the other viruses out there, based on what I'm reading anyway, I mean, who knows between now and then, but based on what I'm reading and seeing, people are going to start taking chances because
I agree.
Yeah,
I totally agree, and I agree with you on what I've read in the devastation.
Yeah.
So I'm not minimizing this, but I'm saying comparatively speaking,
yeah,
this doesn't add up to me. Either the government knows things that we don't know, which I'm sure is the case, but I mean, they really know that there's something going on that we have no clue about, or this is a great fear control tactic.
Sure it is. Sure it is.
So, and I think that those things are both true regardless of how serious it is. I would have said somewhere in the May to June range also. And the reason I say that is that in Reno, we're not under full quarantine. We're, like, I know Sacramento's 2 hours away, Vegas is 7 hours away. I have a daughter, my best friend in San Antonio, and they're on lockdown where they're not supposed to leave their houses. I'm not. I walk my dog today. So we're behind that curve. And in Reno, they've canceled the kids going to school. The kids were supposed to go. They had spring break. They were supposed to return on Monday, so 2 days ago. And we're only doing online school for the next 2.5 weeks. So what that tells me is that last day of school they had right before their 2 weeks of spring break is when things broke out. And they announced pretty quickly after the kids got off school on that Friday, hey, we're not coming back till April 16th, which is a solid month. However, I have a daughter graduating high school this year, and she's already been told we're not doing any of the testing. All the kids in high school, no testing. You're going to pass no matter what. You're going to do online school. There's no graduation ceremony. That shit's not till May or June.
Yeah.
That stuff does not even happen. The testing and the graduation, the proms, all that stuff, it's all been canceled. It doesn't even happen. Why are you making that decision in March if it doesn't even happen for 2 to 2.5 months? And that's why I think, well, somehow they're getting a dictate from someone higher up to not do things for this next few months, and that's where I'm coming up with the May to June timeline. Also, if you've studied any about the disease, warmer weather will kill it. So
yeah. Well, because the lowest infection rates are Africa and South America. Africa, okay, you might be able to make the argument that they don't have enough quantifiable data, but that's not the case in South America. But they've again, both sides have taken quarantine issues. Again, you look at Singapore, you look at Taiwan, you look at Japan. They have no quarantines. They don't even have self-isolations. They just identify the people that are infected and they just keep them away and let them do their thing. Sweden is actually trying something that's really interesting about this too. And I'm looking at that, and it's like they're still letting people travel in the country. So this is what I think. I think this is, however this came about, I think it's particularly in the United States, this is an opportunity to exploit people. And based on what's going on, there's a lot of financial businesses and transactions going on right now. That's just the way it is. And that is, in one sense, to me, this is as much a harvest as this is a quarantine. And that's right. And then that's a very cynical way of looking at it. But then again, I remember 2008 and I remember 2000. This is almost like, well, the economy didn't crash when they like as it did in those previous times. Why not, while it's here, crash it? Exploit the money, and because banks are making a killing right now.
Of course they are.
Yeah.
Well, and there's some conspiracy.
I'm sure there's some conspiracies.
There's
some
issues.
Yeah.
There's like the 5G.
Yeah.
What 5G is doing to people, and is that something that is contributing to this? There is, if we're going to have a depression and a crash in 2008, it affected the auto industry and the housing industry predominantly, but we've got Social Security, we've got student loans, auto, home. I mean, we can probably crash 5 things at once instead of just a mere 2, and what would that do as a tailspin for everyone? So, I mean, there's that this was man-made and released intentionally. There is the, figure out how you want to do things on this round, because this is the pre-illness that's, so next year or next fall, the bigger one, the real one's actually going to hit. You can find
you know, there's a million different things out there right now.
I mean, like there's a million different things, right? But here we are, so what can we do with it while we're here is more my take on it. And
Absolutely.
I'm aware of all of the other issues and the conversations going on. We all have our take on it, and we can say some's total bullshit and other thing is absolutely true. And the thing is, we don't know. We may not never ever know. We may know sometime in the future, but we don't have hindsight or retrospect on this situation. So while you're in it, what can we do with it?
Exactly, and that's kind of my take on it. And my other like small little side mission has been to dispel panic whenever I can. Every once in a while, I'll see my Facebook board just flare up with people going anxiety. I actually think the smartest thing people could actually do is actually turn off the news. It doesn't.
100%.
Yeah, it would be the smartest thing people could do, because honestly, okay, now this I do believe, just based on what I know down there. Trump's taking advantage of this because right now he's the only one that can actually campaign. Because even though he's on TV every single day, and he's the only candidate that can do it, right? And as long as people watch and tune into what's going on, he's pretty much made himself the only viable candidate. Not because he's competent or incompetent or all that stuff. He's visible. No one knows what Joe Biden's doing. No one knows what Bernie Sanders is doing. And he's taking advantage of the opportunity because right now the stage is all his. And a guy like that does not want to give up that stage very easily. So instead of making it as efficient as possible, he's going to drag this out as long as he can. And you can see that. I don't think there's any conspiracy on that. You can I can literally go on my Facebook feed and watch people share news about this guy every single day. I'm like, guys, you're feeding this monster. You're not actually helping. Yeah. You're not actually helping this. But the thing is, I'm watching the fear, the anxiety, and the panic, and every once in a while I'm just going to post something, and it's like, okay, look, just be calm, just be cool, just dispel it, take advantage of this, because honestly, that's the only thing you can really do. It's like, you know what? I'm going to be as positive as I can. I'm going to try to dispel fear as much as I can, because fear is pointless in this situation. It doesn't sell anything, right? Which is why I think, folks, you should turn off the news right now, outside of maybe reading something in the morning, a morning read, simply because this way you're not being peddled to fear. You're just knowing what's going on for the day. Okay, this is where we're at. Let's move forward. Let's continue with our day. Let's do the homeschooling. Let me write something for firstcomics.com. Life will go on. Let life go on. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, as much as it can. And in the changing times, what does that look like? Because the world is filled with opportunities now. It's such a close... How many times did I see people share the video of people in Italy who were singing from their balconies to each other?
That's awesome.
I mean, countless times, right? They were quarantined, they can't get together, so they open their windows and they all start singing. And there are stories and videos like that from all over the world. The world is a very, very small place now, and that means that we can get inspired and uplifted. We can have opportunities everywhere. And so utilize this time in this situation for those things. So no, it does not help your paycheck right now, but if you wanted to switch gears in your career, if you wanted to do something different or learn another skill, now is the time.
I started freelancing literally this week. Like, that was actually... So my initial plan was to quit my day job literally tomorrow. Like, literally, it was literally tomorrow. That was my plan. I had saved up enough money. But of course, when this happened, I wasn't scared of the virus. Okay, and a lot of people will be terrified of this. Like, during I worked at I would have been an essential worker because I was working in a warehouse that shipped stuff. But I would go through 2 trains and a bus every day to go to work, right? Which if everybody is listening to this understands this, I couldn't be concerned about the virus simply because I'm going out there. I have to go out there. I have to make a check. But I've been piling my money up. I'm like, well, okay, I'm going to take a chance. what scared me, what made me come home early, was simply because I wanted to go home early. I don't know how long the airplanes are going to be flying people domestically, right? I don't think it's going to be for too much longer outside of a very handful of flights on a daily basis, simply because social distancing on an airplane does not work. It just does not work. And,
right, exactly.
Right, so I figured while the opportunity was there, I'd go home. And I would go home because I want to make sure I'm there for my dad, I'm there for my grandparents, I'm there, right? All the while, I can launch my freelance career. Again, freelance writing, freelance podcast, like what I'm doing now, I can do that anywhere. And my goal for Vancouver was to get into the film industry. Well, that's not happening this year, so why stay there and why worry about it, right? Instead, I'm going to just, focus on what I can do for now. Next year, no matter what, when people have a better idea what's up and what's down, maybe I go to Toronto and do the film industry there instead of going to Vancouver. That's fine. You know what? I was doing training before I was leaving. I was taking first aid courses, film courses prior to this. And I can continue that education even now when things open up again eventually. Either way, right? That's just again, it's me adjusting to the situation. My big fear was, could I get home to see my family? Well, I'm here, so I got nothing to be afraid of anymore. So that's right? So
yeah. So well, I had 2 speaking engagements in the next few months, and clearly I'm not going to be on any stages anytime soon. And so I switched gears, and I was like, I can do that virtually. I can do it. I can just take what I did and what I got paid for and where I went and just switch it to the virtual world. And it's different. The rules are a little bit different. How you do it is a little bit different. How I present slides is a little bit different. But I have all the content and everything ready. So basically, it's just a matter of taking some time to switch gears and then offering it in a different way. And that's it. That's it. So I lost 2 and I've gained 1 already in June, interestingly enough, an online webinar speaking event. But you just have to start looking at how things change, like you said. And then when speaking opens up, I'll go right back on stage.
Yeah, exactly.
It's totally fine. I'm there. I got it. It's good. I would love to. I'm happy to. That will be awesome. In the meantime, you just kind of pivot. Yeah,
exactly. And that's it. And that's it. Like the art of pivoting. Yeah, I have 3 M's: mercurial, mobile, motivated. That's it. If you can keep those things going, you can bounce and adjust to pretty much everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah, we do have a lot in common.
Yeah.
We do have a lot in common.
And you know what, the interesting thing, because I already brought up you brought up the fact that you're looking at opportunities. So am I, because I live in the online world. That's what I do. So clearly, I was never not doing that. I haven't skipped a beat. The opportunities are just different right now. And I need to look for them differently, and I need to connect with people a little differently. But they're not only still there, there's more of them now. It's just a matter of navigating that world. But it's not just, it's those opportunities, right? The potential to make money doing what I'm doing anyway in a slightly different way. And then there's the potential to capitalize on things that you've wanted to do that you didn't have the time or you couldn't afford to because now they're available.
Yeah.
So this is a land rich with opportunity right now in the midst of all of this the shitstorm we have. And so I don't know how else to look at it except with positivity, because I'm geared that way, but also those are really great things.
Yeah. Oh no,
there's
absolutely.
Really great potential.
No, the world has changed. Here's my thing, I think going forward, I think the 2 things are going to change. Office towers, I think they're going to change forever, actually, because because companies are being forced to look at the fact that, by and large, they're not necessary anymore. Outside of maybe a core group of people in there to make sure things are running, you don't actually need that many people in a building. Which means when you look at a skyscraper, do you really need it? I mean, now it's literally a dick-waving competition. Hey, my skyscraper's bigger than your... I mean, really, it doesn't really matter anymore, number 1. Number 2... right? I do think freelancing in general, not just writing, but any kind of form of freelancing, I think is going to become a much more prominent way of employment going forward. Because I look at the fact that if there's anything this is teaching us, I think should teach people too, the workforce as we know it, right, is not ever going to be quite the same again. And so you have a choice. You can stay in that workforce, right? And if you're training towards the end of your career, like your life in terms of retirement, your retirement's on the horizon, maybe you stay in it and ride out those last few years until you go out the door. But I think for most people, it's like, well, there's a worldwide economy. And there's a worldwide way of doing things. And I think the wisest thing all of us can get a hold of is how can we attach ourselves to these worldwide things that will always be functioning no matter what, and what can we provide that? I think is the future, and I think the workforce as we know it is becoming the past.
I agree, and I could have gotten an office space, right? A community office space, which is super appealing. Doesn't cost a ton of money. I can come and go when I want. I can detach myself from my home. I didn't because I don't need to. It's not money that has to be spent. But I think you're right. Now that all of these businesses are entering the online space, once they realize how it works and they navigate it well, they're not going to want to go back to how they were doing it before. And why would they want to?
Yeah. Well, you're still going to want a storefront. In some cases, in some cases, you're still going to want one. My dad's business. A lot of it is online. Not all of it, but a lot of it is, right? He still has people that come in through the door, but he doesn't rely on the people. When people come in through the door, that's bonus for him. It's not his bread and butter at all, right? But is there because, again, for the services he provides, right? Sometimes you do need that one-on-one consultation. You need a place where you can go to meet people. And that's what he's done. That's why he still has a storefront. But if you look at, restaurants will still need to be a storefront. Bars, people will still want to go out to bars, right? So those things will come back. But but you look past all that. I don't really know how much else is actually required. You might want a stage of some kind in some places, but you don't really need that much. And
I think people are going to realize that. That's a waste of money.
Yeah, a lot of it, right? So I look at that and go, so do you really need so this is going to also reflect on property values going forward too, because it's like the storefront's not going to be worth that much money anymore, right? It's just not, because why do I need it, right? What is so vital that I actually need to have a public face for people to come see, right? I don't know, right? I really and that I think is such an interesting thing going forward. It's like, okay, bookstores are going to go completely online. Maybe instead of having a storefront, they'll have a warehouse. Much like what Amazon's kind of did at the very beginning. They'll have a warehouse for people, or they might still have a storefront somewhat, just for people to come in and because books are cool little treasures. But I don't need to go to a bookstore anymore. They'll just they'll deliver, right? And yeah, I don't know.
No, I agree. I think we're going to end up with some hybrid. There are definitely a lot of businesses that are not going to succeed through this, which there's the trauma of that. And then there are places like restaurants, bars that have to have a storefront. But then you look at everything else. I had this amazing job a few years ago, and I was in charge of leading this nonprofit in town. I was allowed to bring my daughter to work with me until she went to kindergarten. I brought my dog with me. I did a lot of community stuff, so I actually sometimes worked from home and sometimes I worked from other locations depending on it. And when the funding for that left, I was like, I never want to go back to a cubicle again. And it taught me that 99.9% of what I was doing in an office, traditional office work, running this entire nonprofit, the great majority of it I could be doing from my home, and nothing had to change. Nothing changed. I wasn't doing less. I wasn't doing not as good of a job. I mean, everything was the same, but I could do it location independent, which is what you talked about. And that's when I launched my own business. I thought, I've got the skill set, and I want to be a digital nomad. I want to know that if I have my laptop and a Wi-Fi signal, I can be anywhere that I want to be
in the world,
still complete.
Yeah.
In the world. I've worked from London. I went to San Antonio when my grandson was born in January. I was there. My daughter had a baby. I worked some of the time. And I wanted to be able to carve that out for myself. I think now that all these businesses are forced into that space, they're at least going to find a hybrid. You're right. They're still going to have a storefront to some degree, maybe limited hours. Maybe it will look differently. Maybe it will be more shared space.
Yeah.
So that the cost is less. But I think that this is going to change things, and I think that that's in a very good way.
Yeah, no, it's a necessary thing. Like, again, we cannot look.
And that is part one of my conversation with Jenn Taylor. Don't worry, part 2 is going to come right before you know it, this Thursday. Like I said, I love talking to her. She's awesome, and I really, really dug where we went from here, I should say, and where we go, because she's done a lot of amazing stuff that's just so freaking cool. And she's living proof that if you really want something bad enough, you can do it. And Jenn, thank you very much for part 1. You've got part 2 as well. May 17th is almost as big for me as May 16th. May 16th is my book launch. It's going to be like, but May 17th is going to be my first live Zoomcast this year. I'll have the user ID up here for people to actually grab as of Thursday. Sophia Evangelina and I are going to do a special one-on-one live podcast. Sophia is a singer, she is an actress, she is and she's also a businesswoman, and I get to do a full profile, which I've never done before. I'm excited because this is what I want to do with this. I think I'm a great interviewer. I think I'm great, not good, great. But what I really, really like doing is I love building people up, and people like Sophia are the reason why I do shows like this. And I get to meet such incredible people all the time. It's a blessing, and I kind of want to do my part to help them. And hopefully you guys will agree I do a hell of a job. I hope I do a hell of a job. I know Sophia will definitely hold her end up. So I got my work cut out for me, but that's okay. That will do it for this episode of Just Joshing. If you want to support the podcast, you can do so a ton of different ways. Subscribe to the podcast. iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher. I'm on every platform. You don't even have to supply it automatic anymore. You can just go wherever you'd like, hit the subscribe button, share it, let people know it's out there. My book, The Cloud Diver, is available May 16th. It's available at Amazon right now for pre-order. The link is in the description below. Feel free to click on it, order it, let people know it's an awesome book. But if you didn't like the book, don't tell anybody. I'll understand, okay? It's written by me. It's illustrated by the incredible Lance Bond. Definitely check it out. My merchandise is jpintellaresco.redbubble.com. My YouTube channel is Josh Pintellaresco. My Twitter, Instagram is at jpintellaresco. Come say hi. Stay tuned for a new website coming soon as well. Yeah, man, I've arrived. It's time to do this. Stay inspired. Chase joy. Chase life. Especially now. All right, guys. See ya Thursday.
Josh.